Great. Thank you, Chairman Brown. And Mr. Quarles, thank you so very much for being with us. The Community Reinvestment Act addresses how banks must meet the credit and capital needs of the communities they serve. Congress, of course, passed the CRA, as you know, in 1977 in response to real problems like redlining, a practice by which banks discriminated against prospective customers based primarily on where they lived or their racial or ethnic background, rather than their actual credit worthiness. So the CRA not only addresses a harmful legacy of discrimination in lending, but also racism and bias in our current lending system that harms communities and blocks wealth building opportunities. So I was happy to hear about last week's decision by the OCC to halt implementation and reconsider its controversial CRA rulemaking, which started under the previous administration. This proposed rule would have watered down this important civil rights era legislation and harmed many working class communities. Vice Chair Quarles, the Fed also has oversight authority over the CRA and was notably absent from last year's rulemaking. Do you believe a joint CRA rulemaking with the Fed, OCC, and FDIC is important to ensure we do not leave our most vulnerable communities behind?
Yes, Senator, I think it is both important and desirable and achievable for our three agencies to have a joint rule and approach on the CRA.
And so will you commit to working with the OCC and the FDIC to issue a joint CRA rulemaking?
So we're certainly working with them to do that. That's long been our stated goal. We are regularly talking with them. As you know, Senator, the Fed put out its own advance notice of proposed rulemaking with our own sort of CRA improvement framework. We're sharing the information that we've gained from that process with the OCC. The OCC is sharing the comments that they got during their process with us. The three agencies are engaged in joint discussions. It does remain very much our objective. And as I say, I think it is achievable for us to have a joint rule.
I agree, and I think it's much more important for us to get the reform right than to do it quickly. And so I'm hopeful that you will gather feedback from broad and diverse stakeholders to make sure that we get a joint rule and make sure that we get the CRA reform right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to defy Baptist preacher gravity and close with 2 minutes left.
Well, no Baptist preacher I've ever listened to. So thank you, Senator Warnock.